a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
All right. Good morning. Good morning.
All right. Good morning, guys.
Monero Mac, I've been waiting for the show, getting hyped on green tea all morning. Me too. I've been actually drinking green tea today.
Taking a break from the coffee, huh?
Yeah, I've been a little sick this week. For whatever reason, whenever I'm sick, I just move to green tea. I don't know why. But it doesn't really...
Is it placebo or...
No, it's got caffeine. Green tea has caffeine. It also has... does it have L-theanine? I guess it is. It's supposed to be like a nice, like calming, soothing effect. So it's kind of nice. It's more balanced than coffee because you get the caffeine plus you get this like chill out effect from the L-theanine.
Upper and downer at the same time.
You're breaking even. You're basically right where you started. It's like, but yeah, it doesn't like. It's good, but it's like I'm trying to start the engine, but like the engine never fully starts on the green tea. I don't know. Monero Mac, I don't know what your experience is. Maybe you can jump up and tell us later. Would be awesome to add some green tea to gratuitous. We actually tried doing that at one point because they grow green tea in Guatemala.
Oh, really?
I thought was interesting. Yeah, because I thought it only came from like China area. But they grow it down in Guatemala, which is pretty cool.
Interesting.
Not that we couldn't get it from China, but I think it'd be, I don't know, a little more difficult. So what's going on?
Yeah, just been a little bit busy this week, but other than that, not much.
You have been busy. I know you've been busy. I could tell. I could tell you've been busy. All right. Well, we got a busy show today, and hopefully our special guest shows up because I'm really excited about this one. We have the Cuban Warrior who's going to come on and talk about his funding proposal on Kuno. We spoke about it like 2 weeks ago on the show. He is proposing or looking to essentially build a mesh network down in Cuba where I believe people would pay like small payments in Monero to join and use the mesh network as well. And plus he's using Monero to fund the building of this network, and it would allow people to essentially access the internet without censorship. Because as we know, in Cuba, the residents down there don't get the full internet. So would love to have him come. I mean, this is, in my mind, this is like Monero at its best, right? In terms of use case, what it's like we're using Monero to fund this project that you wouldn't be able to fund otherwise, right? Where people from around the world can pitch into this. And then what it's providing at the end of the day, which is access to the internet for those who don't currently have access, right? I mean, it's super ideal. But I will say, the thing with the Kuno, we don't really know, right? We don't know how legit people are. That's my only concern, because it's just so easy to start a Kuno, which is fantastic. We're seeing all these things pop up. But we need a way of like vetting people, right?
Yeah, and I mean that is like, unfortunately, like, while privacy, ease of use, that's like paramount. It's important. Unfortunately, we do have that unintended side effect of like, oh, now, yeah, that part of the concern that's always overblown by the government of, oh, people not being legitimate or whatever. There is some real concern from that, and that, oh, we don't really know if these people are lying or they're making something. I've already seen some fundraisers, which is very obviously not real.
Yeah.
But like, I think for like Cuban Warrior, especially, like if they're showing like everything they're doing, and there's someone who's been in the community for a certain amount of time, and like multiple people can vouch for them, then yeah, I think at that point it's pretty reasonable to support that.
Right, which is why I wanted to bring him on the show too. I think we can become part of this vetting process. So whenever we see a fundraiser like this, happy and eager to bring people up and kind of let them prove themselves. Now that being said, we want him to protect his safety, right? So if he does come on, he's not going to be using his camera. He may not be able to show like too many photos. So there's that aspect too. So it makes it really hard to like properly vet people. Because at the end of the day, this guy's asking for 12 XMR. In theory, if what he's doing is legit, I mean, he should get that funding overnight. But if he's a scammer, it's like really, that's like horrible. It's like taking advantage of people. But knock on wood, I hope he's legit, and hopefully he comes on today and he can prove himself. But yeah, let's make moves because he's supposed to come on, and I want to get him on sooner than later because Martha Bueno is supposed to join us as well. And she, as those who have watched the show have probably seen Martha on before. She is of Cuban descent. She's into Monero. She was the opening speaker at Monerotopia 1 in Miami. And she is very interested in this project as well. So she's going to jump on, and she'll also hopefully act as our interpreter, and she could help translate if need be. So let's get it going. So we'll do price report, and then maybe after price report, we try to jump into special guests if he's up on stage.
All right, sweet. Let's do it.
The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Local Monero. Avoid using KYC exchanges. Buy and sell Monero directly for fiat, peer-to-peer.
Hey guys. Bawdy, good morning.
How are you guys doing this lovely morning?
Good. Chilling. It's a rainy New York day. It's been a lot of rain the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you guys been flooded, huh?
Oh my God, yeah. How you doing, buddy?
What I've started drinking it during nighttime is not green tea, but just like, I don't know, lavender or whatever is in the box. You just make some hot water and toss it in there because it's got no caffeine. But I don't know, it's just better than plain water, I guess.
Yeah. Does it help you sleep? I mean, they have those like herbal ones that supposedly help you sleep, but I don't really.
Yeah, I've tried some of those. I haven't noticed a difference. Probably they work for some people. Maybe it's got that the placebo. They've got that placebo ingredient or something.
Right.
But no, I haven't really noticed the difference. You know what I tried one time was tart cherry juice. Apparently, like if you take a spoonful of that, it's got a whole bunch of melatonin in it, like 2 or 3 milligrams.
Oh,
or maybe like 5 milligrams.
I drink that quite often, actually. Yeah, I didn't even realize. Okay.
Yeah, you probably don't want to drink it if you're trying to be awake and active. It's usually better before bed.
Yeah, no, I drink it at night, but it has a lot of sugar though, too. That's the only thing. So I get.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about that too. But well, let's get into to price.
Let's do it.
Let's see. We had on Friday. We had like a pretty big reaction, like rebound across the board on most assets, really. Crypto stocks, even gold had a little bit of bounce. Let's cover a little bit of news real quick. Price news. So the SEC lost their appeal against XRP. Effectively, so if you remember, XRP basically won that case. Yes, they are going to get fined somewhat, I think, for having sold securities. But as you'll know, it was only like they only considered the securities that were sold to institutional investors. And apparently now there's a bit of an end around where if you can make a backroom secret deal with an exchange to quote unquote buy your tokens from you and then distribute them to plebs, which is kind of what happens with shitcoins regardless anyways all the time. Like that's just what's going on. And yes, that's just Bawdy's wild speculation. It's the holy sanctified crypto ecosystem would never do such a thing, but I'm here to tell you that they do such a thing. That's like the standard because there's just so few regulations, especially with these offshore exchanges. Anyway, so the SEC was trying to appeal that decision. They lost the appeal, and it looks like in a lot of ways, this is good for crypto. It's good for freedom. Like, yes, XRP, I don't like them. They're kind of scammers, 100% pre-mine, etc., and false marketing. which is kind of what I think, you know, in a just world, you would go after XRP and say, no, you falsely marketed. It is not the thing that you say it is. You have these fake partnerships. Anyways, so, but in general, at least the market has the freedom and people have the freedom. It looks like that direction is slowly moving, that people will have the freedom to decide if they want to participate in scams or not, if they want to get scammed. And in the reality, so sorry, I'm being a little bit philosophical this morning, I guess, but the reality is that with cryptocurrency and with the ability to have these distributed ledgers that you can't prevent people from accessing, we can no longer rely on the government, if we ever could, to prevent us from getting scammed. The only thing that keeps you from getting scammed is learning how not to get scammed. So anyways, that's kind of important. You know, I haven't even looked at XRP price. Hopefully I'll remember when we get to crypto. I doubt it's actually done much. I think I like glanced at it and it like pumped a tiny bit, but it didn't do much after that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into, let's start with gold, as we talked a little bit about gold last week, and I wanted to follow up on that. So you can, on Trocador, go directly from Monero into PaxG. So that's kind of cool. You can also do that on Cake.
Yes. Yeah. Vic was jumping in last week, right? And so, and then I think you can store it on Cake now as well, because it's
yeah. So it seems like they've got Ethereum, and now I guess they've got ERC20s as well as a result. So that's pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, Trocador is really cool. Also, I forgot to mention last week, they have an onion link. So, and you don't have to use scripts. You can turn off your scripts, use an onion link, go to Trocador over Tor, and be completely private. Like, there are so few websites that I found in crypto so few exchanges in crypto that you can use over Tor without without scripts being activated. Like, that's again the key thing, because the attack that pwns almost like 90% of the attacks that pwns people on Tor are related to scripts. So like, if you really need solid, go ahead.
Oh, just a JavaScript. It's like the evil of the web.
Yes, sorry, JavaScript specifically. Yeah, JavaScript. The evil of the web that somehow powers everything. I wonder about that. Okay, we got gold here, and you'll notice that price kind of like stopped at this very first resistance line and took a bounce. We're on the underside of the moving average cluster on the wave magic. The way that they treat gold and the way that the potential that could be unfolding, again, it's still very early to say this, but the potential that we could have some recession and potentially, again, a market pullback. I'm right now kind of having to challenge my thesis a little bit on the continue down through the end of year, but it's definitely not invalidated at this point. Like, I would still say it's more likely on the table than not. But at any rate, with the way that gold acts, the way they treat gold, I would kind of expect this resistance line, or sorry, support line, to break down to the lower one at some point, and to probably test these lower standard deviations, at which point this is probably a really good place to pick up some gold. Although, you know, slightly more responsible if you're moving, like if you're reallocating positions in a broad sense, not just trading, but like rebalancing your stack every so often, 0 to 3 times a year, something like that, 4 times a year. You would maybe pick up a little bit down here when we touch that line. That would have been a reasonable thing to say, okay, I'm going to buy 30% of my allocation at this point. So yeah, that's gold there. We still got government bonds. This is the 10-year yield spiking up. We'll go a little bit out of order here, but this is the overall yield curve. And you'll notice we continue to move to the upside. Let's go to the daily. That's the monthly. Yeah, so yields continue. The yield curve inversion continues steadily coming to the upside. This is not a good signal. This would signal some kind of like potential for major crash, but we're not there yet. I wouldn't, you know, I'm not going to be the boy who called market crash here on camera today. But what you can see is that the long-term yields are actually closing. What's happening is the short-term yields are basically flat. Like, they've been flat for really almost since May or June, whereas the long-term yields are starting to recover to that upside. So I think we should get a Federal Reserve rate hike here, maybe, if not next month, or sorry, if not this month, then next. Actually, let's take a look at when the next meeting is. So that would be the 31st, Halloween. All right, the ghouls will come out. They will have their meeting, their Fed meeting. We'll get to see the prime ghoul himself, Jay Powell, scare us all with whatever monetary measures he intends to take. on Halloween. Okay, so dollar index. It's taking a little bit of a pullback, but you've still got this kind of like long-term rising trend line. You'll notice this is a bit of a new line that I've drawn. Overall, this line is still intact. It would be a bit surprising to me to see the convergence here of this rising line and this horizontal line as well, not provide some kind of support and maybe push dollar back up to the top side here a little bit. So I'll show you a little bit. So here's the NASDAQ. When the dollar has pulled back over the past couple of days, the NASDAQ on Friday just like really pumped. So in terms of this head and shoulders, it kind of like oscillated around the shoulder point, the neckline point, and then now it kind of like pumped above it. Whereas if we look at the S&P, it's basically still below that neckline. So interestingly, the NASDAQ just continues to do better than the S&P, and that's kind of an indication, again, a reason to challenge my thesis, a reason to say, hey, here's a point against the notion that that stocks and crypto and risk assets are going to move slowly to the downside through the end of the year. Particularly, this is the NASDAQ divided by the S&P, and this looks like a fairly bullish chart as we talked about last week. So it is kind of weird to watch a wave magic chart just pump to the upper standard deviation cluster and then hang out there and then continue pumping. That's not typically what it does. We can also take a look a little bit here at the wave magic on just the individual, the S&P and the NASDAQ. They actually redid the way they calculate the NASDAQ. It was because too few companies were representing too much market cap of the NASDAQ. Like the way that they make that calculation, the way they do the weighting, because it's just been a handful of stocks of the major big tech companies, like the FANGs, if you've heard of that, like Facebook, Amazon, Netflix. I don't know if Netflix is in that one anymore, but Google or Alphabet now, and also of course Tesla. So it's like just been a few companies that have really pumped hard to make the majority of those gains. But it's interesting because people like a large portion of investment goes straight into the NASDAQ, straight into the S&P. People realized decades ago that it's better to buy a lot of different stocks and to just kind of buy the market as opposed to trying to pick individual stocks, which is much harder to do. Anyways, okay, so that's kind of what the S&P and the NASDAQ are. They changed the calculation on the NASDAQ. So we're looking here at the wave magic. Again, white bands are moving averages, blue are upper standard deviation, and orange is lower standard deviation. So right now, if I'm just like looking at this purely from the tea leaf wave magic kind of perspective here, I look at this and I say, hey, this is a chart which pumped to the upper standard deviation bands. It was unable to get any higher. Found support. Again, you'll see this very often. You'll see the asset pump to some kind of local high. It'll take a pullback. It'll try to get higher, and it'll get stopped out by this sort of slowly descending cluster of moving standard deviations. Right now, what you're seeing is sort of a retest of this the lower standard deviation band. Wave magic would suggest that this is probably going to fail and come back to the downside. So that's, again, sometimes, compartmentalize your analysis, right? Look at something just from the perspective of the tool itself, and then try to integrate that into a larger picture if you can. And the ideal situation, of course, being that everything is lining up, or most things are lining up, and they're all pointing the same direction, or they're all at least moving towards a similar direction. So we have kind of a similar case with the NASDAQ, but as we talked about, the NASDAQ has been much stronger. Still, though, this is the kind of action that I would be hesitant. It would be hard to call it one way or another, because this is action where you can actually find support at these lower bands here, do some more consolidation, and then pump back to the upside. So if that's happening, my hope would be that we could see that in real time. We would see the NASDAQ start to look very optimistic again, and we could say, all right, bear thesis is off the table. Let's get back into the markets. Let's get long. So that's kind of one way of looking at it. Again, I hope that things move slow enough that they present a clear technical pattern that we can leverage. We can also look here at the global liquidity and the Fed liquidity. You'll notice the Fed liquidity pumped back up basically to its local highs. So that probably helped to drive the stock market up a little bit. Again, you'll notice that liquidity pumped. And I think the main factor in that was the overnight repurchase agreements dipped back down again. So at this point, we've gone from a maximum of like $2.5 trillion and we've lost over $1.2 trillion, and that money has gone somewhere. It doesn't seem like it's gone into bonds. I don't think it's really, maybe a little bit has gone into bonds. The rates are actually pretty high. So maybe quite a lot of it is hanging out in bonds, but certainly a lot of that has gone into stocks as well. So down here on the bottom, we've got Z-scores. You'll notice that gold has taken a pretty big dip relative to, to its performance over the past year or so. I think, let me take a look. Yeah, so we're looking at 100-day. Z-scores are based on like standard deviations and moving averages. So we're looking at the 100-day moving average and the 100-day the 100-day standard deviation of the price here. So what this tells you is how is price doing relative to how volatile it is. So in other words, we can overlay them all because Z-scores center around 0. We're looking at things relative to the moving average. And then we're saying, okay, what is the difference of the standard deviation to the moving average? And then you basically how many standard deviations away is the current price away from the moving average? I know that's kind of verbose. I apologize for that. Okay, so we've got gold here. As we've seen, has taken a dip. Dixie has gone up. Stocks have gone down. Crypto is kind of making a little bit of a recovery here. Crypto is actually looking optimistic. Quickly, oil, luckily, this is what we want to see. We didn't want to see this thing just pump to the upside. That would be bad news. So we're seeing this stay in this channel. This is good. Overall, we kind of know that with inflation, oil is going to have to generally trend itself to the upside. But the longer that can be staved off, the better, because it'd be better for us to get some gains than to see energy prices go higher. That means you're paying more for gas, etc. Bitcoin and Ethereum combined market cap chart is looking, again, like this is looking optimistic. Let's see. That's the volume on the bottom. We'll look at the volume, and that's the Coinbase volume for Bitcoin and Ethereum combined. To me, it seems like Coinbase is like the largest legitimate U.S. exchange that does the most volume. They're not entirely honest, but they have to be honest enough because they have some regulator pressure. So I would like to look at Kraken volume as well, but I don't know how much. I don't know how much we can trust that their volume is truly representative of the market, because it does seem like people just like the pleb goes to Coinbase. They're like, Bitcoin, oh, I'll go to Coinbase and buy there. So anyways, but yeah, so we are kind of like looking at we're looking at like it's like the market wants to get higher. We've now kind of got this rising trend line going on here. It doesn't look like it looks optimistic, but I wouldn't call this this doesn't look to me like incredibly like bullish, right? It could be possible, I guess. I mean, this thing could continue going up. You've got this wick here. You've got this continued positive action, but the problem to me is the volume is so low right here. I think this is market makers jacking the market around to the upside, to the downside. They're hunting the stops, hunting the liquidation points, hunting the shorts and longs. And it's much easier for them to do when volume is very low, right? They don't have to throw nearly as much of their monetary weight around to make a big influence on this chart and on the prices of cryptocurrency assets. So you'll notice if we go all the way back to as far as we can, at least as far as this chart will let me, you'll notice that our volumes, and this is a 2-week moving average of volume, so this is kind of like the overall picture. You'll notice that the volumes here on Bitcoin and Ethereum combined are very low. Like we're talking about bear market lows from the last time down here. Actually, the bear market lows last time had very high volume, but just in general, like the lowest lows of volume on the bear market last time is basically where we're at now. So I wouldn't call that a good sign, but if we see this thing like chop sideways for a while and maybe we see price slowly recover, that's one thing I've noticed. It's a pattern I've noticed with volume, that if price slowly starts recovering as volume is basically low, that's typically a good sign. That's like, actually it's saying, hey, all of your big sellers and the big selling pressure has largely washed out. And people are kind of slowly accumulating now. So it is possible that this is a good sign in combination here, even though that the volumes are very low. And even though that makes it easy for market makers to, to move price and do a lot of shorts and long and short stop hunting. So, okay, that should be about it for the macro. Let's see. I think we got some unemployment numbers on Friday, basically unchanged. this is one of those things where, again, you would expect this thing to spike up significantly if you were expecting a recession. Like obviously we had the event which shall not be mentioned, event 201 spike that happened in March of 2020, where no one was working anymore for some odd reason. And then you saw the same thing like back here with the financial crisis of 2008. When you get recessions, you get spikes in unemployment. So you can notice like over time, like what do you get? You get this downtrend, kind of slowly flattens out, slowly moves to the upside, and then bam, just like everyone gets unemployed all of a sudden. Maybe too much mad gains, who knows? So if this thing spikes up, that's a sign that we're looking for that would indicate recession. One of the interesting things that's a counterpoint to that is that the GDP, and we haven't covered this, I don't think, the GDP was 4.86 last time we checked, last quarter. That would be Q2 GDP. Or no, wait, that'd be Q1. That would be Q1. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. That would be Q3 GDP. So, and then what you'll notice is that this GDP is higher than the inflation rate. Now, I tried to see if I could find some shadow stats scripts that someone might have wrote, because obviously inflation is not actually 3 to 4%. But in a nominal sense, from what what the cabal says, we actually have a GDP that is higher than the inflation rate now. So that would mean that real rates are actually positive, which is something that Jay Powell has said. And it's kind of like this would sort of go in the camp of the theory that we're not going to have a recession, that it is different this time, that they've got the GDP up, that they've got the inflation down, and they've got like all of these tricky monetary means that they've developed over the course of decades to like finesse the market where they want. Let's just wait and see, right? Let's see if we see some more of these signals, like the unemployment rate. Does that end up spiking up? Do we see the signs, the warning signs of the bond market? I don't think that they'll be able to stop those things, especially the bond market, because the bond market is so large. When those signs hit, I don't think they can control that. I think that's basically the way that those dynamics play out with yields cratering. Again, because if you're an insider and you know the market's about to fall and risk is about to go, into the toilet, you're going to get into these high yielding bonds as soon as you can, because as soon as everyone else starts buying these high yielding bonds, the yields start crashing, and you don't want to be the dude that got in there. You don't want to be the family office, the plebstitution that got in there, at like 2% interest rates when you could have had a guaranteed, 4 to 5% interest rate while the market washes out potentially. And then again, if we see this big spike in the yield curve inversion, that's another sign for us that, hey, this could be coming. So, just like keep your head on a swivel there. It's hard because it's like, it'll be boring and nothing is happening for months. And then suddenly something happens. You're like, well, crap, I was on vacation, or I was working on a project and I wasn't paying attention, yada, yada. All right, let's take a look at the Bitcoin market cap dominance. So one thing I wanted to point out here, and I don't know why I haven't pointed this out sooner, to myself most of all, is that the collapse of FTX has actually seen a significant rise in Bitcoin dominance, almost as if FTX was helping to prop up some high market cap shitcoins. Right now, Sam the Bankman is on trial. I think it's like day 3 in his trial, and there are opinions everywhere. Apparently the jury doesn't look quite good for him. I think that his best chance is to hang the jury on, there's like a banker that's sitting on the jury. And so there's like this struggle to present Sam as if he's like this autistic nerd genius that got in over his head and, made some bad decisions and made some mistakes. Poor guy, you got to feel for him. Or if he was like this criminal mastermind that knew he was taking $37 billion from Tether. I don't think Tether's a part of the trial, by the way. That's just me being colorful exaggeration. But anyways, is he like, this evil genius that siphoned off all these funds and knew that he was insider trading and that he so here's another thing that came out during the trial that I've been saying, and people that investigate this stuff have been saying forever. Alameda had a timing advantage. They were allowed to get their orders in just a little bit faster than everyone else. And like we've talked about before, the exchanges and the market makers have special privileges on these exchanges, and they front run what the plebs are doing, right? So that's one of the reasons we see wild swings in the prices of crypto, because if real buying demand is coming into an exchange, they can see that, and their little bots get in before you do, and you pay just a little bit higher than everyone else, and everyone pays just a little bit higher than everyone else, and then of course the market makers take that spread and they get that advantage, and so you get these wild pumps, because in addition, to what the plebs are doing and what institutions might be doing, you've also got these big market makers that can really, really move price when they want to. So you get this like compounding effect on both the upside and the downside. So anyways, Bitcoin maximalist, here's your chart. This says it all right here. November, FTX collapses, and then Bitcoin dominance starts going to the upside. So what was that because of fractional reserve Bitcoin? Probably not. It's just that they pumped everything, and Bitcoin was one of them. They pumped shitcoins more than Bitcoin. That's just what your friends at Tether do. I know how much the maximalists love Tether. Okay, so this chart, you would like from Wave Magic, you would say that this is kind of a resistance area right here. But you know, if we are re-entering a bear market and there is no FTX to like keep the shitcoin supported, maybe we could see Bitcoin dominance finally make it and sustain above 50% for a while. We can look at total, says basically about the same picture, right? Because the Bitcoin dominance has been relatively flat for, you know, months now. So overall total is going to say is a very similar picture to the dominance there. Maybe we can look at XRP USD just to give it a check since they won that appeal. Yeah, see, nothing. XRP, the whole chart is littered with massive pumps like this. What is that, 100%, and then they just bleed out slowly over time. However, because of their victory here, there is some speculation that the next bull market, XRP might actually be a beneficiary, since they were, poor guys were left out in the cold this last bull market. I got a feel for them. Okay, Monero, finally, at last, we come to Monero. So this chart, as we talked about, kind of hanging out these lower standard deviations that should act well as support, and we have now broken through the that line right here that we were talking about that looked like, hey, it looks like we might have broke that. Okay, so that's good. You know, we're kind of on our way up. I do look at Monero often regularly as a proxy for the real dynamic of the real demand in crypto. Because as we talked about all these other charts, these other shitcoins can be kind of faked and moved and pumped around. Whereas Monero, as we know, they don't really like it to gain the spotlight and attention. They mine at a loss with their Monero miner and their backroom deals with, I guess Bitmain and whoever's running it now. Jihan got kicked out long ago. So anyways, I would not be surprised to see Monero continue rising here. I mean, we are at a bit of what you would call resistance with this moving average cluster, but moving average clusters don't have to act necessarily as stark resistance or support. They can, especially when they're very well formed, and especially in a macro sense. But right now, this isn't exactly a macro sense chart, especially since we're really just oscillating in between the upper and lower standard deviation bands. So it would be completely unsurprising to watch Monero move to the top side here and find some resistance in this blue bands. We are seeing Monero Bitcoin continue to do nothing. But at least, you know, so we saw this like big spike to the downside. This spike happened when crypto got optimistically pumped, and then, you know, Monero kind of followed. So the fact that that kind of thing happened there on the Monero Bitcoin chart says to me that, hey, maybe there really is some demand happening here in crypto, right? Maybe there really is some real organic buying happening as we see Monero kind of move to the upside. That doesn't mean that, you know, I think it's all totally organic buying and, with the Pepe holding his throat, looking to the heavens. But perhaps there is some real buying here. Monero versus Ethereum. Continuing to be mildly positive. We've curled the chart here. The upper standard deviation blue bands have sort of curled to the upside just a little bit. And this is something that I also look for in charts and Wave Magic. When you see whether it's the upper or the lower standard deviation bands start to curl one direction, and prices trending above or below that direction, that's usually a sign that you're going to continue kind of moving along that trajectory. There is resistance that could be found here at the very top of these lower standard deviation bands. Like you can see, we're basically still in this kind of large band structure. At the maximum, I would expect Monero to find some pretty stark resistance here at the top side of that upper standard deviation bands. So yeah, that actually looks pretty good. Maybe we can get some relative gains. We are seeing the divergences for the past week have been hanging out to the top side and not to the downside. Looks like there's no volume. No one is taking longs or shorts on Bitfinex on Monero, and why would you? Why would you be able to trust them unless you're an insider? And then finally, we've got the Monero dominance. I like this green candle right here. It's really not anything to speak of at the moment, but I like it, right? It puts us very, very close to that very long-term downsloping resistance. So again, we want to see this thing break to the upside. We want to see just a little bit of confirmation right here. And with the way the charts are setting up here, with Monero having strength against Ethereum, with Monero, I mean, I presume that this chart will break to the upside eventually. It looks like it wants to break to the upside, but if the market is not going to go to the downside, if the market is actually going to go to the upside and crypto is about to go to 30 or 40 or 50,000, then this chart probably is not going to do things that we wanted it to. So maybe I could be wrong about that, right? Maybe they did their Monero mining and they've got their Monero stash and now they want to, maybe they want to pump this thing at some time. At some point, the cabal, are going to want to pump Monero. They do this with gold. They do this with assets that they don't like. They unexpectedly pump the asset to very high heights, higher than it would have organically gone if they had just like taken their hands off the market. They like to pump it, and then everyone gets like super bullish on the thing, and then they slowly sell their stash, right? They've got profits now from all that pumpage that they did, and then they slowly sell their stash, and the market readjusts back down to where it should be, because again, they over pump it. The market readjusts to the downside. People start getting a little bit nervous, and then with the rest of stash that they have, whether that's gold or Monero, they slowly sell that off to create the impression in the plebs of that the downside is what's happening. And then they pump the other assets that they want. So that can be gold versus stock markets, or that can be Monero versus crypto markets. Now, mind you, that's a very kind of like speculative kind of inference that I'm making in general there. I couldn't show you the documents that proves that, right? But this is just making inferences from knowing the sort of modus operandi of the people that are involved in these markets and the big players that have a lot of control. Not total control, but a lot of control, right? They are a factor. They are a major factor. They're an equal factor, I think, as the plebs and as just like regular retailers. So I think that's about it. Monero nodes are looking at about 27,000 still. And we've got Monero transactions have taken a little bit of a bump to the upside here lately. And again, this would be another little tick in favor of there is organic buying, right? There is organic action happening in the market. It's not much, right? It's a little bit. But we have kind of moved to the upside just a little bit. So if this continues to sustain, this will become a more powerful signal, right? If we go from 20 to 25,000 and we oscillate around 25,000 for a while, that's a powerful signal, right? And we stay there, right? We sustain that. That tells us that that there is more activity happening. There is more genuine activity happening. So yeah, I think let me check my notes here, make sure I didn't miss anything. But no, that looks like it. That should be everything for today.
All right, man. Actually, we have one question, which I will ask because we're still waiting on Cuban Warrior here. I am chatting with him, though, so he is on the radar. Hopefully he can jump in.
Looks like he's in the backstage.
Oh, he is. Where do you see him? I see Shortwave. I don't see him.
Down.
Oh, good. He's there. All right, but we can still ask this one question. Bitlamus is saying... Thoughts on Bitcoin market being overexposed to institutional investors and therefore having the risk of crashing when traditional markets crash?
That's an interesting question. Oh, you know what? There was one thing I wanted to take a look at. I can't believe I almost forgot. This is a sign to me of institutional investors. Let's look at the GBTC premium. It doesn't really matter which one. They all say basically the same thing. So right now that's a good question. I'm not really too sure. Is Bitcoin exposed to institutional investors, and how would that affect Bitcoin in a market downturn? In a broad, like serious market downturn, like a March 2020 event or a 2008 event, Bitcoin's going down with everything. Gold is going down. It's all going down. Everyone smashes the sell button. But in like a slow bleed out to explore the lower range, I mean, we have seen Bitcoin act a little bit a little bit inversely correlated to stocks. That's one thing we're seeing right now. I would guess that most institutional investors have at least the vague idea that Bitcoin is kind of a digital gold. So it might not, like in a general downturn, it might not fully manifest as like a risk-off play anymore. People might be using it slightly more like a digital gold than before. The GBTC premium here that you see on the bottom, the blue bars, This to me is a measure of how much actual interest does institutional money have in getting exposure to Bitcoin. Think about your parents, right? Or maybe even your grandparents. If they want exposure to Bitcoin, what are they going to do? Are they going to like sovereignly go to local Bitcoins or a Bitcoin meetup and like, or, you know, local Monero and buy? Probably not. They've got their money in the stock market. Most of them, a lot of them have control of their investment now, or at least control of some of their investment. And so they buy tickers, they buy ETFs and ETNs on the stock market. So if you want to get exposure to Bitcoin price, you can do so right now at a whopping 23% discount than what you would get on Kraken. So if there's big institutional interest, why is the GBTC premium at minus 23% to its actual spot value? Now, this thing has closed. It's gone from being negative 50% ever since the BlackRock decided that they wanted to try and get an ETF, and everyone knows that BlackRock is, you know, basically global finance now. They own it all. So this has been moving to the upside, probably mostly on the speculation that if ETFs start getting approved and the Grayscale ETF starts getting approved, and right now the court case does look, you know, they did have a very beneficial positive ruling for Grayscale. If they win that case completely and the ETF is granted to Grayscale, this is going to close to zero because now they can finally balance their books. They don't balance their books because of some kind of rule that doesn't allow them to push Bitcoin off their balance sheet. That would actually be negative, believe it or not. That would be price negative because Grayscale would have to sell off a bunch of BTC to balance their books to bring this back to zero. Wow, I hadn't thought about that until just this very moment. So I need to think about that. That's like a tentative, you know, live thought that I just had. But that might not be entirely price positive. It could be price positive in one way. Oh, here's another thing to think about. BlackRock is apparently going to buy like the 200,000 Bitcoin that the United States government has sitting in its coffers. So this balances that equation in a way. Like, okay, BlackRock gets CETF, the hype, the exposure, getting more integrated to the financial system, right? That's all like generally macro, fundamentally bullish. But all of that 200,000 Bitcoin that the United States government had was fundamentally bearish. So those, like, that equation now balances, right? The bullishness of the BlackRock is probably being balanced out by the fact they're just going to scoop that Bitcoin off of the U.S. government. There was another important thing that now that I think about it, the trustee, the Mt. Gox trustee, went back to the Japanese court and said, hey, we can't really pay anyone by the deadline we said after we extended it for like 2 years. So can we get another extension? And now they have an extension basically to 2024. They put some language in there that said we could start paying people off as early as January 1st of 2024. But that language from lawyers just means that, no, we're not going to do shit until the very last deadline. And maybe we'll think about if we could pay some people in January, but probably not. So that whole thing is going to get delayed by another year. I guess it's actually kind of a bullish thing at the moment because that is selling pressure that won't hit the market in any immediate term. So I do think I'd have to really think about that question that was asked. I apologize for trying to like dance my way around it here.
Yeah, no. It's a tough question. But I'm thinking we should move on because
Sorry, go ahead.
Cuban Warrior, and I know his internet, he's kind of paying by the minute here. I don't want to lose him. Bawdy, man, thank you so much as always. Very comprehensive.
Thanks, guys.
Please stick around.
Playing the opposite of limbo. Instead of how low can you go, how high can the rates go?
We'll see.
Tux has been waiting to state that line on that. Tux, let's jump to special guests so we can get them up. We have Martha here as well. I want to get it moving so we don't lose Cuban Warrior.
Awesome, let's do it.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right. Martha, how's it going?
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for doing this. I'm so excited to hear.
I know we all are. Cuban Warrior, are you there?
Looks like he's muted.
You're muted. Moneronando. What? I can't read his name here.
¿Cómo están?
¿Cómo estás?
¿Me pueden escuchar?
Sí, te escuchamos. ¿Quieres que te traduzca?
¿Me pueden escuchar?
Sí, te escuchamos.
Saludos.
So he's asking if we can hear him, and he's saying hello.
No,
All right, yeah, Martha, if you want to kind of run this, because I feel like he definitely prefers speaking in Spanish.
Okay, so do you want me to just go back
hi.
and forth between the two?
Yeah, we basically want to find out initially what is it exactly he's proposing to do, and to be honest, we want to suss him out a little bit and find out if this is legitimate.
Me too.
Because if it is, the community will certainly back him, I'm sure.
¿Entendiste la pregunta o quieres que te lo traduzca?
Creo que me preguntan algo sobre el proyecto, ¿no?
Sí, quieren saber sobre el proyecto, lo que estás haciendo.
Bueno, es un poco largo, ¿no? Porque al principio estábamos planificando algo distinto era acerca de privacidad y acercarnos más a lo que era el impartir el internet, el compartirlo con otros coterráneos, otros camaradas para ofrecer y dar más privacidad con unos USB y
Dame un
facilitar.
segundo para ir traduciendo poco a poco para que ellos puedan ir captando. So
Okay.
he's saying that his project started in a different sense. It started first for privacy to be able to get internet going to more people. And that project now changed. Okay, continúa, perdón.
Ok, el inicio era con Tails y con Tor. Son dos aplicaciones diferentes, pero que ofrecen privacidad y que dan oportunidades de tener un internet que sea más privado, que se deje los rastreos aparte, o sea, que no estemos tan perseguidos.
Okay, so they were trying to, first we're going to use Tor. ¿Cuál era el otro? Tails.
Sí, Tails.
Tails and Tor to try and get more privacy to the people of Cuba so that their search is not being followed by the government, but now their plans have moved on. So, cuéntanos.
El siguiente paso ha sido más cercano hacia compartir el internet con la SIM card de un turista.
So they want to be able to share the internet with tourist SIM cards.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
Andres, your microphone's a little fuzzy.
Does it work now?
Yeah, it works.
We can hear you, but there's a...
Whatever. Can you hear me now? Kind of.
Yeah, go for it.
Good enough. No, what he's saying is that he's using one SIM card, if I don't get it wrong, one SIM card from one tourist, so he can have internet from the world, basically, and then sharing that internet from one SIM card of the tourist locally in a mesh network.
Cool.
So
cool.
the SIM,
how is
so
this
the tourist SIM card is because Cubans cannot access like normal internet SIM cards like we do, so they're using just one exit. It's like an exit node from Cuba, and then inside they share that single SIM card with more people through a mesh network.
Amazing. And so, has this been done before? Does he know it's going to work? I mean, what's the...
¿Entendiste? Te preguntan si está funcionando.
En este momento solamente es compartirlo, pero como un hook de un celular. No tenemos la reconstruida aún. O sea, estamos haciendo una propuesta porque pensamos de que podemos recibir el apoyo de ustedes, mas sin embargo hemos recibido varios ataques, varias dudas, que hemos intentado persuadirlas en darle más información acerca de nosotros.
So they're still building the network, if I heard him correctly, and it has not yet, they have not yet completed that step. They were sharing their project to get more support from the community. However, they're finding more attacks than support.
Oh no! What kind of attacks are they getting?
¿Qué estilo de ataque están recibiendo?
Hace unos 2 días más o menos estuvimos respondiendo unas preguntas porque alguien quería que mostráramos nuestra identidad, que mostráramos nuestra o sea, información de quién éramos nosotros, y así es muy difícil para nosotros. Nosotros estamos intentando es hacer un movimiento que es al margen de la ley aquí.
Right. So they wanted more information on their identity, which for them is not going to be possible. They obviously in Cuba, the government is not okay with this, going around the system, so they cannot be showing their identity.
Yeah, understandable. Martha, what do you think? How do you think we, resolve this, right? So the Monero community wants to help. They're very eager to help if this is in fact legitimate. Obviously, I guess there's just trust involved at this point. Is there any way you think we can build up we can somehow vet Cuban Warrior and build up some trust so that people don't mind zapping over their Monero?
How we can achieve that trust, that would be on the part of the Monero community. I think that, verifying that they are in Cuba is something that we can probably do very easily. And if they are in Cuba, then I don't see why there is any trust issues at all. I mean, you have a country that has spent the last 64 years under communism where we know that the government is against them. So I think it's almost ridiculous to ask them to prove these things at this point.
All right.
Or you can go there, Douglas. We trust you. If you say if you say it's right, yeah.
I would, trust me. I would.
No, but joking aside, I mean, yeah, but jokes aside, one of the ways that if you need to really, I don't think that the sum is so big that it needs so much of a formal verification, but some trusted member of the Monero community that has nothing to do with this project could travel there and verify it for themselves. Or we can get any other Monero community member that is already in Cuba to somehow independently verify that the mesh network works on. But
yeah, that would
just
be
as Marta said and Nando as well, it's very tricky. It's very tricky.
Wow, are we trying to KYC this guy
to be
right
public
now?
about something in Cuba. Yes.
What exactly is he asking? For the community to
trustless
help
verification. Yeah.
I think that's where we really need to focus, is what is he exactly asking us for? Because if he needs something to build this mesh network, then that's different than money, than sending Monero directly to somebody.
No. He's raising the money, and then he's going to use the money to build out the system, which is another question, I guess. How is he going to use Monero to acquire the parts and things that he needs?
That's a great question. ¿Entendiste la pregunta? Te están preguntando cómo vas a usar el Monero para poder comprar las cosas que necesitas allá en Cuba. ¿Me escuchaste?
¿Me escuchan?
Ahora sí.
What happened?
¿Puedes repetir, por favor?
Sí, que te están preguntando cómo piensas usar el dinero, el Monero particularmente, para allá en Cuba para comprar las cosas que necesitas. De lo que nos puedas contar, de cómo intentas
es
usarlo.
una pregunta difícil, ¿no? Es una pregunta que me puede comprometer en algunas cosas, porque
claro, por eso
tengo que dar
solo dime
algunos
lo
datos
posible.
Hay maneras, tenemos maneras y hemos logrado traer algunas cosas desde el exterior, y con la colaboración de algunas personas que están cercanas al turismo, hemos encontrado algunas vías.
Okay, so he obviously can't disclose a whole lot of information, can't give us the roadmap on how he's going to, or how they're going to accomplish this. However, he says that there are connections very close to the tourist industry that can help them with this endeavor. I'm going to assume that tourists, you can pay them with Monero to bring the things that they need.
Okay. Tux, do you want to share the screen and get the Kuno up here on screen so people can see it?
Sure,
And then,
we'll pull it up.
maybe Cuban Warrior could explain a little bit more exactly, how the system is going to work. Is it, Martha? Is it going to be that then users of the system pay in Monero to use it? Because that was my understanding as well. Or is it just going to be free for the local community?
Monerando, están preguntando que si el sistema, cuando lo construyan, si la gente va a pagar usando Monero para usarlo o si va a ser gratis para la comunidad.
Todo depende de la cantidad de usuarios que tengamos. Todo depende de la cantidad de usuarios que tengamos y cuánto podamos ofrecer el servicio con una SIM card. O sea, porque al tener una demanda muy alta, el consumo de los gigas que tenemos disponibles se va a acabar muy rápido, ¿me entiendes?
Claro.
Tenemos que ir mesurando, haciendo una medida de prueba para saber qué tan sostenible es en el tiempo.
So their intention is to, I guess, play it by ear. They don't know how much they can actually support with that SIM card. So it depends on demand, and it depends on how quickly they run through, what they have on that SIM card. So I think for now it's an experimental.
I mean, keeping keep in mind that the access, I've been to Cuba once. Access to internet in Cuba is very annoying and expensive and slow. So if you manage to get it working, even with a tourist, like a foreign SIM card, it's gonna be expensive, and they will need some financing long term so they can keep doing it, because they will have to recharge or more credits into that SIM card somehow. I think it's great, one, if it works technically, but then if it works socially, because you need some payment, so you basically you don't get abused. So I mean, since internet access is so precious, if you get just like a free, like an open mesh network, some people are going to abuse that. I mean, are going to start streaming or downloading anything that they can. So you need to have some anti-spam measure with even just a little bit of payment in Monero. But it would be great, I think, socially, if you could do that, because if you ask the users to pay in Monero, you are also ensuring some kind of circular economy of people needing to get their hands on Monero to pay the internet access.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So is that what he's thinking of doing, though?
That's what I understood from the proposal, but you can ask.
¿Estás pensando usar, cuando tengan internet, cobrar para poder mantener el sistema? ¿Piensan cobrarle a los usuarios? ¿Y tienes alguna duda de que si lo abres directamente al público, que pues abusen del sistema, que usen todos los minutos que tienen disponibles para el servicio?
En la base del formato del experimento está que tenemos que cobrar al menos cerca de $0.01 por usuario, o sea, lo cercano 0.01 Monero por usuario, cerca de $5 a la semana.
Okay, so they are intending to charge the client, y lo harían en Monero, ¿verdad?
Por supuesto, es Monero. Estamos utilizando Monero, vamos a tener que entregar Monero, vamos a recibir Monero. Y eso nos permitirá entregar los Moneros al contacto que tenemos y recibir las próximas SIMs.
Yes, so it is a circular economy. They are intending to charge some small amount, 0.01 of a Monero, I believe, about $5 worth, because they have to pay their contact to keep providing them with SIM cards, and they're going to pay in Monero. So yes, they intend to make this a Monero community.
Amazing. Tux, you want to scroll down a little bit so people can see the QR code? No, I guess scroll up then. Yeah, there you
right
go.
here.
Can I
All
ask
right.
something to Nando?
Yeah, of course.
Nando, ¿me escuchas?
Sí, te escucho.
Te quería preguntar, para que la gente que está mirando el programa tenga un poco de contexto, ¿cuánto es más o menos $5 en Cuba, relacionado con lo que la gente normalmente gana? O con otras cosas o con precios de otras cosas.
Disculpe, estoy aquí cerca de una avenida, porque no tengo mucha cobertura donde estoy, entonces tengo que acercarme hasta acá para poder hacer la videollamada. Entendí algo del dólar equivalente.
No, sí, te preguntaba más o menos cuánto representa $5 para un cubano que estaría accediendo a esta conexión de internet, digamos, comparado con un sueldo regular o con otras cosas que puedan comprar. ¿Qué sale $5 allá? Para que la gente que escuche esto en otros países del mundo tenga el contexto.
No, aquí es muy costoso mantener el internet. $5 aquí puede representar una semana de comida para muchos. No todo el mundo tiene acceso a muchos ingresos. En estos días, bueno, uno de los ataques que recibí era porque estábamos solicitando una cantidad de dinero que parecía excesiva para nosotros, pero es lo que vale el proyecto en realidad, no es lo que nosotros ganamos aquí. Ganar aquí es otra cosa. Hacer este proyecto para las personas como estamos nosotros aquí nos llevaría 10 años fácilmente y es imposible.
What's he saying, Anhdres?
I was waiting for
You-
Marta to speak better.
Oh,
better
I'm sorry.
English.
Okay, so he's saying that $5 in Cuba can represent a week's worth of food for some people. So it's not a cheap project, but they do need these resources because for them to be able to do this that they're trying to achieve would represent over 10 years of time with their resources. They obviously don't have the ability to do this on their own without our help. And I think the picture that you have up there kind of shows, here in the US for us to go and be able to buy these things is pretty easy, and it's something that most people can do, but they're very rudimentary there.
Quisiera agregar algo más para que no se
Dale.
malinterprete tampoco la situación. O sea, no quisiera que pensaran de que porque sea caro el proyecto significa que no va a ser accesible para muchas personas. El tener acceso al internet aquí es algo muy valioso, no tenemos muchas oportunidades a la mano. Tener internet para muchos representaría tener nuevos ingresos porque pueden trabajar por esa vía. Entonces es una puerta que estamos abriendo. No entiendo que es costosa para muchos aquí, pero también se abren más oportunidades.
100%. So he's saying that he would like to add some additional context so that it's not misrepresented in what he's doing. So yes, it's a very expensive project for them on the island. However, he's very well aware that with this opportunity, with internet, that it will open up doors and opportunities for those that are there to be able to do those jobs and be able to connect with the world and be able to do the things that will give them even more opportunities. So he absolutely, I think, is correct on that. Having accessible internet that is not blocked by the regime and where they can work outside should bring more opportunities for Cubans.
Yeah, I mean, this project is Monero at its best if this is in fact happening, right? So we'd be using an anonymous currency where people from any part in the world can contribute and help finance the building of a system that then gives people access to internet that's not censored. So it's like the best on both ends. I may or may not have just sent a little Monero, right? I guess we don't want to necessarily be admitting whether or not we are, right? Because I don't know how legal it is.
You're not supposed to do that.
Right. But I do.
By law, you're not supposed to do that. Yes.
Tux. Let's refresh here. I mean, so the beautiful thing about Monero and Kuno is nobody knows, right? This isn't PayPal. This isn't Venmo. You can completely anonymously fund the Cuban Warrior here in his pursuit. There's really no other technology you can use to do this. So
I did have a question on that censorship because I knew that Cuban didn't have the most free internet, but how exactly strict is it? Is it like a whitelist where only very specific government-approved websites are allowed, or is it like more like China, where there's a bunch of main big services like YouTube that are just straight up blocked?
Nando, están preguntando que cómo funciona el Internet en Cuba, que si es una lista blanca donde solamente algunas personas pueden accesar el Internet, o si es como en China, que en algunos lugares, algunas páginas simplemente no se pueden accesar.
Aquí puede acceder a algunas cosas, no está totalmente bloqueado, pero sí puede ser muy rastreable. Hay momentos donde todo cambia de una semana a otra, no es tan sencillo.
Yo sé que algunas páginas ustedes no pueden
Aquí
llegar.
Lo más accesible que tenemos aquí lo más accesible aquí es el Facebook. El Facebook lo usa todo el mundo.
Yeah, so he's saying it changes very quickly from one minute to the other, so it's not that simple to kind of give you what is available and what isn't. But the one website that is surprisingly allowed and everybody in Cuba uses it is Facebook. But things like PayPal, I know you can't access. If anything financial, they cannot access. So it depends. It's hit or miss.
How did he discover Monero? I mean, and Kuno. How did he?
Great question. ¿Cómo descubriste Monero y Kuno?
Mis comienzos fueron en Bitcoin primero. Yo estuve comenzando fue con Bitcoin porque hacía pequeñas tareas y recibía dinero. Pero para ese momento el Internet era más libre, hace cerca de 3 años atrás.
So he started with Bitcoin. He started working with Bitcoin and doing small jobs with Bitcoin. But this was 3 years ago when the internet was more accessible to Cubans. He's saying that now it's not as accessible.
Creo que no explicar ese cambio. Ese cambio que hubo fue de la antigua CNET, que era la que teníamos nosotros disponible. Bueno, parte de nosotros somos de ese proyecto también. Estamos como que intentando renacer ciertas cosas, pero no puedo decirte mucho más sobre eso. Entiendo que no tengo. Hay una organización que se llama Joven Cuba, que es la que nos tiene en cierta forma pisoteados.
Se te entendió un poquito mal. Andrés, ¿tú entendiste mejor? ¿Tú puedes explicarlo?
No, le preguntaría... Le preguntaría por la... Él decía que hay una organización que se llama Jóvenes por Cuba o algo así, que los tienen pisoteados.
Sí, ellos nos quitaron toda la autonomía que teníamos sobre las redes anteriores. Entonces, ellos están apoyados por nuestro actual gobierno. Es difícil. No puedo darte muchos más detalles, pues...
No, entiendo.
Muchas cosas.
¿Qué es lo que hacía la CNET antes? ¿Era un proveedor de internet?
No, era una red de todos. Era una red de todos teníamos acceso. Era mucho más sencillo acceder. Era una red donde teníamos mayor libertad.
He's saying that before they have a network or an organization called CNET that he may or may not be part of. That used to provide access to several people there. More like I understood that it's kind of like a grassroots movement that they started, but nowadays or lately, an organization called Jóvenes por Cuba or
Young People for Cuba.
Yeah, Young People for Cuba. They love those names. It's so fun.
They love them. Yes, they're usually communist communities that love to tear down.
Yeah, it's like now you have like a internet freedom organization that basically regulates internet. so no, they cannot do that anymore. The CNET thing that they were doing before. So they have to look their way out by these projects.
All right, just reloaded and just went up to 6 Monero.
Can I ask him a question?
Nice. Beautiful. He's almost halfway there. Guys, let's get this funded. and let's get Cuban Warrior back on the show in a couple of weeks, and hopefully with this built out mesh network. Go ahead, Anhdres.
No, Nando, te hago una pregunta última. En la idea de que este proyecto funciona y está funcionando, los usuarios, ¿cómo accederían al internet? ¿Lo hacen a través de otras SIM card con teléfonos o funcionaría como una red Wi-Fi en los routers que estarían armando?
No. El objetivo es colocar 4 SIM cards. 4 SIM cards que vamos a poner en cada uno de los router mesh.
O sea, ¿tenés una SIM card principal y después 4 SIM cards o solamente directamente 4 SIM cards independientes?
4 SIM cards independientes. Bien. Porque en caso tal de que una de las SIM cards quede sin datos, los otros usuarios que tengan esa zona pueden tener cobertura y recibir datos de otras SIM cards. Es como un ecosistema que se crea.
Entiendo. ¿Y los usuarios a ese router se conectan vía Wi-Fi?
Correcto.
Bien. ¿Y los usuarios a través de Wi-Fi se conectan usando Tails y Tor o a esos ya usan ClearNet, o sea, normal?
El acceso a Tails y Tor es desde el servidor que vamos a colocar. O sea, vamos a tener un repositorio de elementos de privacidad para que sean compartidos entre todos y que puedas descargarlo directamente del repositorio y no tengas que gastar nuestros megas en descargarlo directamente del directorio del proveedor.
O sea que, para entender esto del punto de vista de la seguridad, los usuarios se conectan al router de manera simple, sin usar Tor, y lo que se conecta a través de Tor es desde tu router con la SIM card hacia afuera.
Correcto. Yo estoy haciendo como un puente donde todo está protegido después de lo que venga de allí.
Déjame que les explico. What he's saying is that the system will work like this, because I asked him about privacy and how Tor works with the whole system. The system is like that, like this. They will have 4 SIM cards, 4 independent SIM cards on different locations with a router, each of them, right? Mm-hmm. And that router is going to provide internet access for the people around the router. But each router connects through by the SIM card, by the cell phone service through Tor. They are going to maintain that. So the privacy is like basically against the government, so to speak, because it's like protecting the traffic from every router, but the final users connect to the router with normal internet Wi-Fi network. So,
are the 4 SIM cards doing load balancing, or did you say it's one router per SIM card?
It's one router per SIM card. So I understood that there are basically 4 different SIM cards with routers for redundancy on different locations.
Awesome.
So Bawdy's asking, why don't they just use Starlink? I imagine it's probably just not that easy to get Starlink up and running in Cuba, but if you want to ask him that, I'm curious what his response is.
Te están preguntando, discúlpame, te están preguntando por qué simplemente no usan Starlink en Cuba, el sistema de Elon Musk de satélite.
No hay cobertura aquí para eso.
He's saying there's no coverage. From my own knowledge of this, it's almost impossible to get the antennas into Cuba. You'd have to smuggle them in somehow. So you need to still solve that problem.
Wow.
Are people in Cuba using Monero in any way that he knows of? Is there a Monero community over there?
¿Sabes si en Cuba hay una comunidad de Monero? ¿Estarán usando a gente independiente Monero en Cuba?
Actualmente conozco de algunos startups que han estado iniciando aquí, pero la mayoría de ellos están muy ligados al al gobierno. Es difícil acercarse a ellos porque pueden presionarte.
So he's saying that he thinks that some people are using it, but they are probably more connected to the government. So he's fearful of connecting with them because it can backfire.
About mining, are people mining crypto from Cuba?
¿Sabes si están minando criptomoneda en Cuba, particularmente en Monero?
Monero no conozco que estén aquí minando, pero sí conozco algunas granjas, pero están ligadas al gobierno. Es difícil, no puedo darte mucho opinión, no puedo darte eso. O sea, no puedo decirte que si me parece bien o mal, ellos lo hacen y ya.
So some people, there are some mining farms, but they're probably connected to the government. One thing that I think is missing in context, just for everyone listening, is in Cuba they have rolling blackouts. The usual is 4 to 6 hours a day of blackouts, and most people don't have a stable electrical connection. So just mining alone would be difficult. Nonetheless, getting the equipment and everything. So he thinks some people are, but they have to be connected to the government to have that ability.
How does it work with like electricity costs and stuff? I mean, the electricity is it free for everyone, but it just doesn't work well, or how does that
¿Cómo
work?
funciona la electricidad en Cuba? ¿Es gratis para todo el mundo y simplemente no funciona bien o se paga? ¿Cómo funciona?
Si quieres tener una minería, te van a dar cuenta rápido. El servicio eléctrico te marca cuánto estás consumiendo, no tiene sentido. Pues. Tienes que estar bien conectado con alguien para que te tenga, o sea, para que no se hagan de la vista gorda. Aquí no, cuando ves que consumes tanto así, te visitan y te hacen una entrevista, ¿qué está pasando?
So obviously consumption is something that they monitor. So if all of a sudden you are consuming a lot, they will come visit you. ¿Pero es gratis para los cubanos o tienes que pagar la electricidad y o sea, pagas por tu uso?
Por supuesto, pagamos por el uso, pero no podemos consumir tanto, ellos se van a dar cuenta si consumimos más de la tarifa que tenemos ya programada. El consumo ya tiene un promedio, no podemos excedernos de eso.
So they do
Además de los
pay for
cortes,
the
o sea,
electricity. Perdón, no escuché el final.
Además de los cortes que están, no podemos tampoco exponernos a colocar algo que mine y de un momento a otro se nos daña, es muy riesgosa la inversión.
Yeah, so it is an expensive endeavor to do this. They do pay for the service, but the government knows their average, and you can't just go over that average. And then on top of that, it's too expensive of an endeavor to try that.
All right. I don't know. Have you guys ever seen the? Go ahead, Anhdres.
Okay, no. I hope you can hear me better now. No, that in these kinds of situations, I mean, I live in Argentina. It's like a very less extreme version of Cuba in some regards. But talking with people from Venezuela and also from Cuba, one thing to remember is that it's very tricky to get like stuff inside, into the country for customs and all that. You have to smuggle everything, and you cannot just smuggle an ASIC, for example, to mine Bitcoin or something like that. And you can see by the photos the hardware that you get in those places is either old or very, very expensive. It's not the same price that you are paying like going to Best Buy and buying the new shiny CPU or something like that. Yeah, you have to pay someone to bring it to you, and if it's too visible, you have to also bribe someone from customs. So everything adds something to the price and a bit more and more. So it gets very expensive very fast. And usually you don't get a lot of stuff because it's simply not liquid. You don't have enough market, so to speak. So that's why you see so many limitations with hardware related endeavors. What you have is like a very and the same thing happens here. You have a lot of people that are willing to work for crypto because that is remote, and then in that way you can get currency into the country, and you can progress somehow. So that's the other side of what he was telling us about. Yeah, it's very expensive or pricey to pay $5 a month for internet, but it also opens up a huge possibility for people to do jobs that they
Yeah.
will be considered very cheap in some other parts of the world. Like it's just earning, I don't know, $50 or $100 extra a month will make a whole lot of difference from someone inside of these countries.
Yeah,
It
so they
goes
still have
a
very
long way.
heavy iron curtains.
Yeah, and now they are very restricted because of the communication. I was just there for a couple of days, and you can tell even me trying to do my work with the connection, it was very hard. And I think about I don't know, Tax, you were asking how do they whitelist some websites? And yeah, they probably do, but it's even worse than that. You can censor by infrastructure, basically. If it's super bad and nobody gets like official access to it, it's very fast gets very expensive to get it like on the black market, so to speak. I need a SIM card from somebody else. It's not, or you get you cannot do anything that is too much in the clear, and you can be at risk of exposing yourself because you could be prosecuted like politically for doing so. It's like, well, I save or I get this donation from abroad and I put like a 5 miners mining Monero on a house, and then I split the earnings with the people. It doesn't work like that, because the same thing happening in Venezuela with Bitcoin mining, where it's either very, very dark black market, like mine farms inside of a slum with illegal electricity connections, and or it's done by the government, who subsidizes a lot the energy and controls the customs, so they get the miners. Otherwise, they just knock on your door and say, well, you're consuming so much electricity, and they take the miners or the hardware from you, and then they mine it themselves.
Wow.
So it's
not just blocking stuff, it's an insane amount of
it's not so much
corruption.
because in China they have a lot of internet, because they use a lot of internet in China, inside of China. You pay everything with your cell phone. It's very internet heavy. But Cuba is not like that, as with all the respect of not being there right now. It's very much analog in that sense.
All right. I know, Martha, you're running out of time here. Cuban Warrior, anything you want to leave us with?
I think he... Oh, there he is.
Oh, did we lose him? If
He's
he
back.
wants to close out his thoughts and give his final plea to the community. I'm personally bought and sold here. I think this is an amazing project. Wish them all the luck in the world, and I hope it works for all the reasons we're talking about. It would be beautiful to see it up and running, and then people actually now accessing the internet, and maybe earning jobs, working remotely, and earning Monero. That would be beautiful. So best of luck, man. But anything he wants to say to close this out?
¿Tienes algo, quieres decirle algunas últimas palabras a la comunidad? Cualquier idea que tengas que quieras compartir antes de irnos. ¿Me oyes?
Looks like he's muted.
Cuban Warrior.
Este micrófono, ¿cómo se dice eso? Andrés, ayúdame.
I'm trying to unmute him, but...
Este botón funciona mal. ¿Qué cosa decías?
Que para las últimas palabras que tenga,
Nando, ¿estás ahí?
What happened? All right. I don't know.
We lost them.
We lost. He's there, but he's muted. I don't know what's going on. You guys have any closing thoughts on this?
I think that this project is amazing. You guys know that I've been on this path trying to find somebody in Cuba to start and to just get this going. So I am so thrilled. And it's unfortunate that I lost all my Monero in that boating accident. But I will definitely want to help this project, and I will be trying to contact them through other routes to see how else we can help. See if there's other ways that we can get them the tools that they need.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure at this point, if we tweet it out a little bit more, I mean, even today, I think we went up from 4 point something to over 6 point something Monero. I'm sure he'll get
pretty good. Let's fund the crap out of this. I mean, it is insane, like how we have a lot of issues in our first world countries with things slowly becoming more dystopian over time. But then we look at somewhere like Cuba, where it's just like extreme in like a lot of levels. It really puts it into perspective. So support this. Donate to this fundraiser, help this guy out. He's giving people free access to information in the internet to allow them to learn about things and have better jobs.
I really cannot think of something that look at that photograph. It looks more cypherpunk than this.
But the hardware looks like it's from 20 years ago.
Yes.
Because it probably is.
Have you seen the cars? They're like from 70 years ago. Yes. Nando, ¿volviste?
Nando, te queremos dar la última palabra.
Disculpe, ¿me escuchan?
Sí. Acá el anfitrión Doug te estaba agradeciendo muchísimo. Sí, ¿me escuchás a mí? ¿Me escuchas?
¿Me escuchan? Disculpa, creo que sí ahora.
Sí,
estoy teniendo problemas de conexión, disculpen.
No hay problema. ¿Escuchás vos?
Sí, lo escucho.
Por
allí hay una pregunta sobre si se caía la electricidad. Nosotros tenemos programado ahí en el proyecto colocar unos UPS que nos garantizarían al menos 3 horas. Bueno, en su máxima capacidad.
No se te oye.
Según el estudio que hicimos, no es gran cosa, pero para solventar mientras no haya electricidad es funcional.
Okay. He's saying that part of the project is to add some.
Okay, repito. Por allí hay una pregunta sobre la autonomía del servicio. Estuve conversando sobre unos UPS que vamos a colocar. Está en el proyecto. O sea, si hay algún problema de electricidad, podemos solventarlo momentáneamente.
Ok. Y preguntan, te agradecen muchísimo por la participación, Nando acá, y te preguntan si querés decir algunas últimas palabras de despedida o pedir algo a la gente.
No. Anhdres, what's going on?
I think it's just the connection is breaking up too much. He said that people were asking before about the electricity, how to solve the problems with electricity going off and on. And one of the things that are part of the project he says that is part of the project in Cuno is to add some UPSs to the routers. So in case the electricity goes down, they will have roughly like 3 hours of battery power to keep the
Okay,
system
that's a good
running.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think he's coming back really soon.
All right. Well, this was amazing. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that show. I think it was called Startup, not the comedy. It was like it was actually about like a group of people that were building something like a Monero. They were building is this ringing bells for anybody? I think it was on Netflix, and there's a scene where they're in Cuba, and I think they're even building a mesh network for people to access the internet. So this is art imitating life or life imitating art. This is pretty amazing, but much better than the show. We're doing it for real here.
There was a project.
Hey,
Sorry, there was a project called Loca Mesh. I don't know if you remember. Like
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
I was trying to do like a mesh, like also. I think it was from Venezuela, or Colombia. They were doing a mesh network, but they were also designing the hardware themselves. It was going to be open source, but it was open hardware, the routers, so they can transmit from mountain to mountain. And it wasn't so much of a free internet thing as long as I remember, but you could transfer transactions in Bitcoin and Monero using the routers. Not for open normal internet, but just for be able to have a resilient network of transactions. Getting and sending transactions.
I have some words for this too. In my opinion, this is a really good and large project. They are basically building a DIY ISP, but we need to take into consideration that servers typically consume around 200 to 300 watts of use. So I don't know if he was thinking about that, but he needs to take that into consideration too.
Well, it looks like the hardware that he got on his Twitter feed, he got a modern Ryzen motherboard, an A320M, which is a that'll work with Zen 3, I think. So he's got some modern parts.
That could work too.
All right, guys. We can leave it at that. Thank you, Martha, for joining us. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Anhdres.
Thank you guys for doing this and for promoting freedom in Cuba.
Yeah, of course. This is very exciting to see it to come to fruition, and in an organic way, right? This wasn't like people using Monero because they want to like pump Monero and shit. Like this guy organically found his way to it because it was the best tool for what he was trying to achieve.
Yes.
And then use Kuno for that purpose because it was the best tool for what he was trying to achieve. So beautiful to see it actually taking hold and working as intended.
I'm so stoked for this. I hope they succeed, and I can't wait for Monero to be the reason Cuba's free.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll keep moving on with the show, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this in future episodes.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, guys.
All right. I hope we get that funded. I think we will.
Yeah, it's up to 6.59 XMR right now, over 50%. 2 XMR just within the past half hour. Pretty good.
Sweet. And like I said at the outset, we'll continue to do this with these Kuno fundraisers. I think that this is amazing. We should mention Anarchio again. He's the guy who built Kuno.
Super talented.
We'll never hear from him. He's never going to come on this show for his own personal reasons. He wants to maintain his OPSEC and maintain completely private, stay completely private. But he's also the guy building XMR Bazaar, which I was having thoughts of that as well. I don't know about you, Tux, right? So like that's the point. One of the main goals of XMR Bazaar is to open it up this ability for people to do consulting globally for Monero, to do freelance work. So that that's the next stage, right? And we were talking about it here. So use Monero, build this, raise the funds to build this mesh network, give people internet, uncensored internet that didn't have it, and now maybe they're working remotely, getting hired by people in first world countries and getting paid in Monero, unbeknownst to the states, all for good ethical causes, right? And people that just want to work, that want to participate in society, and that's the dream, guys. This is how we build out the parallel economy. Tux, what do we got next? I guess let's move on to Dev Report.
Yep, let's do it.
And now for the Monero development segment.
Hey again.
All right,
Welcome
Conrad.
What's up with you guys?
What's up, man?
Thanks for dealing with the weird schedule today.
It's no problem. My schedule. It's
What do you got for us today?
So there was a link that you sent me. 1 second. So it's about doing a new proposal to the POW with Serapis, and this would basically improve the DOS protection of the nodes, because currently there are some vulnerabilities in it. So as you see, this is nowhere near ASIC related. This proposal would improve the partial verification of the POW, and this could replace this would replace the final Blake 2B with a double Blake 2B hash. So it's basically a double hash, which is not less or more secure. Is the same security. It's just a hash over hash.
Wait, hold on.
Yes,
back
yes.
up. Simplify this for
Okay.
the
So
untechnical out there.
Basically, we get the Blake 2B checksum of the I try to say it fast. 1 second.
What is this? What problem is this thing solving?
So this would solve the DOS vulnerabilities.
Okay.
1 second. So here. So typically, a high-end machine would take 15 milliseconds to generate a hash, but a low-end 32-bit machine, for example, Pi 0, Pi 4, Pi 3s, takes about 1 second. This is a DOS attack vector, because malicious nodes could start spamming the network with invalid blocks that the machines would need to verify now, and this would slow down block verification. There could be some intermediate data inclusion in the blob, but this would need a block format change. But since Serapis already does that, this would be a small change compared to if it wouldn't be. So this is why the trader guy who made this proposal wants these changes to get into Monero with Serapis. The function would pre-verify the hashes that would take only 300 nanoseconds, so really negligible time, and it would make the attacks ineffective, not able to be done. The lightnode performance boost would boost the performance of lightnode significantly, because it would only do POW partially and do the random X validation for the top end blocks only. This would reduce the CPU demands of the light nodes. So we are not talking about full nodes here, only light nodes, up to 10 to the fourth. So by a lot. And for the wallets using untrusted nodes, it would verify the integrity of the blocks received from untrusted nodes. Probably, I think it would be a few hashes. I think I mentioned it in the last.
So this potentially solves that issue, because we saw that recently, right? Where
yes. So basically, the malicious. Sorry, 1 second. The malicious actors could flood the light nodes with fake information, and that would make the light nodes be inefficient. I mean, there would be no use in light wallets if that could be done. So light wallets, light nodes would do just a few hashes, and it could verify the integrity of the blocks by cache. So getting the blocks cached from another server, for example, and with this double blade2b hash, it would implement the 32 byte field, the intermediate hash, as I was talking about it. Of course, this would increase the chain size about 8 megabytes a year, but I think it's negligible if we think about the security of the nodes and the DOS protection itself. And also for pre-verification, as I mentioned, it would take 300 nanoseconds. There's another one, yes. So this was the untrusted nodes. And there is also, 1 second, let me share my other screen. How would I do this?
Yeah, so this is Tevador that proposes. Tevador, he's done a lot for Monero development. He was instrumental in developing RandomX alongside Howard Chu.
So this is a really big proposal, and it's complicated. So I couldn't fit it into one presentation, as me myself don't understand it fully.
Okay.
So, as I said, the hash of the register file would be doubled. This doesn't double the security, but this doesn't make it worse either. So the security stays the same. Sorry, 1 second. It's just making it checkable sufficiently.
Okay. Oh wow! I'm just looking back at the Kuna. We're up to over 7, almost at 8 XMR raised.
Jesus, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Jeez,
Beautiful.
nice.
Fantastic.
I'm really hoping to see that network done, because as I said, that guy is just making an ISP by himself and a few friends.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Beautiful project. Tux, you got any input here?
1 second. Not really. It looks like it's a faster way to verify.
Yes.
It'll make it a lot easier on all devices. And
so, as said, the 8 megabytes, so 8 megabytes a year, the 32 bytes to 56 bits field, the intermediate hash would make the DOS attacks impossible against any kind of nodes, and the 300 nanoseconds that the light nodes would use to pre-verify the blocks that they are sent would do the same.
So light nodes essentially would be able to verify faster. It would prevent DDoS attacks, and it would prevent malicious nodes too, as well, right?
Yes.
Which is a very real problem we were having.
So if no nodes are available, people would be able to use untrusted nodes without the risk of being feeded fake blocks.
And now this won't be implemented until Seraphis upgrade happens?
This would be implemented with Surface.
Okay. So that's why waiting until then? Just because it's such a big.
Because it's such a big. Such a big update, and as mentioned, this would require to change the block format. But Surface already does that, so with Surface, these changes would be negligible, and the privacy would be much more awesome. And as said, there would be no DDoS attacks. So this is worth to implement with Surface, but without Surface, this would be a lot of work.
All right. Very exciting to see. I'm trying to get Tevador back on the show. I had him on years ago.
I'll try to write in his GitHub proposal. Maybe he recognizes that.
Yeah. We've been communicating with him. I just don't think he wants to. I don't think he wants to come on. I think he's a pretty private individual.
Not true.
But yeah. Please hit him up if you can. Maybe you could help convince him, because there's a lot of things he's done that I'd love to talk about. All right, let's keep it moving, just because we had a long.
And there's some stats of Monero currently.
Okay. Yeah, as Bawdy was saying, I think we saw a little bump up in transaction count recently, which is
yes.
Nice.
I'll try to make total Monero transactions. I'm just trying to search for service, or if not a service, I'll make a script that dumps all the transactions from the site that Bawdy was looking at, and it adds them up.
Okay, cool. All right, man. Let's keep it moving. Thank you, Comrade. We'll move on to the, I guess, viewers on stage with the news, right?
Sure, yeah. Thanks, Comrade. Good stuff.
Thank you, Comrade. Stick around if you can. Yeah, let's get viewers on stage. Let's get some people up here, and then we'll run through the news.
It's the Viewers on Stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
Alrighty. You know the drill. If you want to come up, we got Shortwave Surfer.
Guys, like and share. We don't say that enough. Like and share the show. Anybody else? You got anybody else that wants to come
on? Alaskanon or AKN on.
Okay.
One and the same.
I figured.
I just have to be on my phone. We're doing French toast this morning. But
nice.
French toast for the Monero news.
Alaskanon, what do you think of this Cuban Warriors proposal?
Well, I'd point out, number one, he is not the first person to do this. He's not even the first person to do this in Cuba. But this does look like he has a much more practical implication than what is done before. People who have attempted this before, the power issue was a big issue because of the control of the infrastructure, like they were saying. There are tricks that you can use with mirrors and solar panels, for example, that can hide solar panels from aircraft. There are other things too, like there are lots of cars with lots of alternators there. So like maybe your local mechanic is trying to fix something while the alternator is running and there's battery cables going to something below the car, perhaps, would be but anyway, the main thing about all of that is there's a lot of things you can do to help projects like this with your own government, because out of one side of all of these different countries' mouths, there's embargoes and so on, but it's actually used to prop up the dictatorship. They pretend to be on opposing teams, but in reality, they're on the same team because they use these embargoes, grid controls to maintain their control over the people. And that's what it really is, as I always say. It's not this nation versus that nation. It's them against us, right? So there's a couple of different ways that you can deal with this. For example, why does the U.S. Coast Guard arrest people that are getting too close to Cuba if they're still in international waters? It makes it really difficult to get stuff to the coast of Cuba. Well, the reason that they're doing that isn't because they're trying to protect us from Cuba. They're doing it to protect Cuban people from freedom. Right. So then you have to swim a lot farther because of the U.S. Coast Guard. Right. I mean, there's a lot of things that could be done in our own nation to help the situation. Like, for example, microwave antennas can reach from U.S. territory to inland in the island, and you could use all kinds of. Or another one, like he was saying, Starlink has been used by government officials since before you could buy it here in the U.S. They were using it in Cuba, but the same people won't provide internet access to people in Cuba. And, you know, they might have their excuses like, oh, well, you know, we could lose our government contract. It's like, oh, the whole like $10,000 that the Cuban government uses. I mean, they could triple that with subscriptions from American Cubans paying for the Starlink connections in Cuba. But it's just another example of how what Starlink is really afraid of losing is their dirty U.S. government money. Because the U.S. government is in on it. The U.S. government is also trying to prevent these people from getting internet access. They have a lot to gain from maintaining these tyrannies all over the world. They have a lot to gain from manipulating people with their family being trapped on an island prison. So yeah, and I have a lot to say about that. But the truth is it's all connected, right? Freedom for Cuba is freedom for the United States, and freedom for the United States is freedom for Cuba. You know, the famous communist doctor Martin Luther King, slavery anywhere is slavery everywhere, right? So, but outside of that, I would also point out that this Tevador project that ComradeBlin was talking about, it's a lot more important than people realize for people like who might be based in, for example, Africa, where older, lower-powered devices are going to be the main means by which commerce is done. Right? Like it's so easy to underappreciate how important it is to make extremely lightweight means by which a person can transact and do it trustworthy and reliably, because there's a huge financial incentive for somebody in Nigeria to rip you off for $5 a Monero, right? Over here, we don't really have that problem because it'll take a guy 30, 40, 50 minutes to try to rip somebody off for $2, $3 in a transaction. But over there, you know, that's several hours wages. Or over there, that's not only money, but it's money that's not connected to the World Bank, right? Which is a huge problem over there. I mean, we don't really deal with it. But these lightweight wallet projects are unbelievably important, you know, and it's one of the reasons why I was saying about the Moneronando thing, like having plug and play hardware that you could get almost anywhere that can support all kinds of light wallets all over the place in your area would go a long, long way for adoption in places where it's needed the most. But I'll quit ranting because I'm sure there's other people want to talk.
Oh, always good rants, though, man.
Want to get on with the news? I need to pull it up.
Let's get on with the news. Maybe run the news segment. Go ahead. Let's make it official.
And now for our weekly news segment.
We got Tony up there. I don't know. We got to put Tux up there. I think Tony's MIA.
Yeah, no Tony today, unfortunately.
Tony's just become a mysterious figure around here.
Share my screen here.
Yeah, share your screen if you can. I don't even know what we got. I think I sent you some links. I don't know if we have anything else.
You just sent some links. Oh, that's not the right one.
Hmm.
So while you're working on that, I took some Monero and I got some gold backs and I got them in the mail and they are amazing. They're like little works of art.
Of course. Well, where'd you buy
They
them?
are
Monero Market.io?
Yeah, Monero Market. They're super
I
thin
remember you
though. Like
mentioning that last week.
I got the one gold backs and I got a couple of them to give away for gifts. And when I got them, they're so thin that I'm like, did the person only send me one? And I pulled them out and nope, the right quantity was there, but they are so thin. I was not expecting that. Like, I think a dollar bill is thicker.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, the 50s are notably thicker. I don't know if it's because it's, when you think about the weight of something as dense as gold, yeah, in order to make one gold back's worth 1/1000th of an ounce, you have to spread it so thin to make it into something that resembles a dollar. You can literally see through it.
Right. We have a lot of news, but this one is from Doug posted, you reposted the fact that the Serai announced that their new site is live. You can check it out right now. And Serai will hopefully be a path forward from the centralized ways that a lot of people get crypto right now, especially Monero, as Monero has continually become banned on centralized exchanges. There's almost nowhere you can get Monero anymore in the US and in most first world European countries. So that is pretty awesome.
Serai-DEX. It's basically, I mean, for those who are just hearing about it for the first time now, it's basically going to be similar to a Thor chain in the way it functions with liquidity pools. So it's going to feel pretty seamless. In my understanding, it's going to feel like a centralized exchange. It's not like atomic swaps. Where you have to bring two parties together and then go through the process. Because of these liquidity pools, you're going to pretty much be able to instantaneously make an exchange from Monero into Bitcoin into Ethereum stablecoin. So I think this is obviously tremendous project and amazing to see that it's actually coming to fruition here.
Of course, as always. Thanks to Luke Parker for going crazy on the development, going ham.
Maybe we'll have Luke on again soon.
That'd be awesome.
Once it actually launches. Do we have an idea of when it's actually going to launch? I know that they got this website up now, but
I think there's some estimates before the end of this year or like the beginning of next year, if I remember. I don't quote me on that. But better to say later than sooner.
It's just amazing to me that Thorchain just never added Monero, right?
Yeah, super would have been the perfect thing for it.
So lame. What else we got?
Next we got a constitution the government evades.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you took a look at it. If you want to go through that a little bit.
6 months ago, FBI officials boasted that in 2022, their agents had spied on only 120,000 Americans without search warrants. Under the Constitution, the number should be 0. This revelation is supposed to give members of Congress comfort that the folks we have hired to protect the Constitution are in fact doing so. In reality, the feds continue to assault and violate a core freedom protected by the Constitution, the right to be left alone. The reason for the FBI revelation in the pending expiration of Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and the bipartisan animosity towards its extension. Section 702 is unconstitutional on its face as it directly contradicts the core language of the Fourth Amendment. It permits the feds to conduct warrantless surveillance on foreign persons who are either physically or digitally present in the United States and all with whom they communicate, including American citizens who are located here.
Is there anything more Orwellian than that sentence? Or who are digitally present in the United States? Is that not the freakiest thing you've heard all day?
Which is basically everyone, right? I mean, like at one point or another. Anybody that that goes through any server that's hosted,
which I mean is most of the internet,
right? And so they're looking to extend Section 702, right?
This is like some Patriot Act crap, warrantless surveillance.
Yeah, and it's coming up in Congress for extension. I think it's being voted on.
Just disband the United States. That's the answer.
Rescind my citizenship. RINO makes enterprise wallet free. RINO today announced that it is making its enterprise wallet free to use. Today, we're announcing that RINO Enterprise Wallet is free to use. RINO's Enterprise Wallet enables financial industry best practices such as spending limits and 4i approvals. Organizations can sign up instantly and get started without having to deal with salespeople or subscription models. That's pretty awesome. RINO Wallet is cool. It is one of the first wallets that supports doing multi-sig for transactions.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty awesome, and looks like they've made their enterprise wallet free. And they already had some kind of free wallet, but I guess it wasn't the enterprise specific version. But now they do, which is really cool. They're doing.
Have you tried it out or not?
I have used some base version of RINO wallet just briefly, and it's pretty cool. It's not really, if you're trying to use like a wallet personally, it really is more designed for like a business use case where you've got access control so multiple people can access the wallet, and you've got the multi-sig, right? So not just one person can spend. But this is a really good wallet if you're trying to manage a business and you have a lot of Monero going in and out, and you have multiple people that need to be able to access that.
Yeah, this will one day be a tremendous asset, I think, to the community as we grow larger and we start to see Monero businesses.
My CEO called me and asked me to transfer 5 Monero for an Amazon gift card.
All right. Next we have, oh yes, somebody pointed out to me, apparently I'm in this video. Mental Outlaw did a video on Monerica, which is it's like a 40-minute long video. I'm sure most people know who Mental Outlaw is. He's Luke Smith's doppelganger, brown doppelganger, and he makes a bunch of privacy and techie videos and security videos. And somebody pointed out to me that around he was showing off hush pics.
Can we play a clip?
Oh, sorry, I didn't. My bad, I didn't switch to this tab. There we go.
Okay. Yep.
By the way, he would make a really good guest one of these days. Just
I've been trying forever, man, from the first day he mentioned Monero, but he I don't know how to get in contact with him. Do you guys?
He's I don't know. Like I've never seen him. Like I've seen Luke Smith at various
base.win.
I've never seen this guy.
Send something over base.win. I think there's a way to contact him there.
Is there a way? I looked on there. I don't think there was a way to I don't think there was a contact there. I'll check it out again.
I'll get a look at it and I'll talk
like
to you
his
about
little
it
marketplace, right, where he's selling stuff. Yeah.
That's working for Chuck. It's probably better to sell stuff for XMR on HushPix than on OnlyFans, because then it's not being traced. You know, maybe you have a change of heart later in life and you want to no longer work for Chuck. Well, if you were accepting payments in fiat, there's going to be a paper trail of that. Not with Monero. DJs, you can hire a DJ in Monero. Electricians, you can hire electricians in Monero. Well, at least in Stockholm, Sweden. So there you go. If you're living in Stockholm, Sweden, and you just bought a house, you can hire a carpenter and an electrician to do your renovations and pay them in Monero. Look at that. If you're a dark web kingpin and you're looking to move somewhere, I guess Stockholm is the place to go to get your house renovated. And you can buy a car. Look at that. You're in the EU. Buy yourself a fancy German car. Let's see. Food and drink. So this is great right here. You've got, what are these? Some type of energy bars.
Oh, these are actually really good.
It's actually
we sell those on Gratuitous as well.
Yeah, that's right. You guys do now. Yeah, these are really good. I'm trying to find a specific part.
Saying, I mean, I don't know.
Ah, yes, there I am. I'm on a Mental Outlaw video now. somebody actually messaged me. They were like, "Hey, what are you doing on HushPix?" Like just out of the blue. I saw you in the Mental Outlaw video, and I'm like, "What?" Yeah, that was funny. But yeah, he's
and we all know your password to HushPix too, because you exposed it during the last.
Yeah,
episode.
which is why I don't like the yeah.
Have we seen any good hush picks recently? I don't know.
It's mostly just it's NSFW now.
Oh, it is. It's already
yeah.
made its.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
There's
we get to check it out before it was destroyed.
there's actually a whole section on MoneroMarket.io for NSFW stuff.
Yeah, of course. XMR Bazaar will have a digital downloads, right, Tux?
That's correct.
Hush picks. I think it's great. I think it's phenomenal the way they made it. I think it's nice and simple. I think we might see that take off.
But anyway, great seeing that supported, and glad he's taken the time to show it off. And
yeah, Monerica. He's showing off Monero.
Yep.
Fantastic. All right. What else we got? Is that
about it? I think. Oh, we got a couple more here.
Oh, by the way, you know how earlier we were talking about ways to generate Monero for the Cuban people. Hush picks is actually a great way because Cubans are absolutely beautiful people. Okay, I'll shut up now.
Get the word out.
All right.
Yeah, that was one way.
Yeah, it's not the.
Recently, apparently, Honda, you can now purchase cars from Honda using lots of crypto.
Except Ripple
and this one for some reason in the headline it's Ripple and Shib. I don't know why that's in the headline. But if you scroll down, they tell you all the ones you actually can: Bitcoin, Ethereum.
Well, definitely not
Binance
Monero.
coin.
Monero is essentially
no, not Monero.
Japan. It's not listed on any
and of course,
exchanges.
a bunch of Ethereum tokens. But that's interesting. I guess they're hoping that with the next bull market, when people make it big with their NFTs or whatever, they can spend that money on a Honda. So,
well, yeah. I could just take my Monero and go to Trocador.app and swap it for Bitcoin or whatever, and then have it sent directly to Honda for my new Honda.
Your Honda Civic with Monero?
Yeah.
Or just, go buy a car directly from somebody with Monero.
Right. I was going to say, or just don't buy Honda.
Have a bunch of spyware built into it. New cars, they all spy on you.
Major respect lost for Japan when they delisted Monero on all exchanges.
The people there still use it a lot, though. That's for sure.
Is it? Yeah. Is that what's?
In Japan?
Is Monero?
Oh
going
yeah,
on?
yeah. It's alive and well. I mean, think about how many people buy things in Japan, like using Monero. It's just as popular as it was before the delisting.
Yeah, I have no insight into that. Maybe we get somebody from Japan to come on.
But if things are delisted and they're illegal, then nobody uses them.
That's like my vetting process. I wait for something to become illegal before I'm interested in it.
That's a good vetting process, actually.
What else was that? Is that all the news for the day?
That looks like it was about it.
All right, guys. We're actually over 2 hours in. Anything else you guys want to bring up, or is anybody else that wants to jump on right now? Got a pretty long show here.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
All right, guys. Yeah, let's wrap it up there so we can all continue on with our day. Alaska Anon can go eat his French toast. I'm gonna go eat my scrambled eggs, and we will see you next week. We do this show same time every week, Saturdays, 11 a.m. Eastern. Thanks to all.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all